Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Don't Be a Man About It. Ali Khawaja, he is one of my favorite people here. And Ali, this is not the first time that we actually have a conversation. You were part of the campaign we did last year. But this is,
Yes,
I guess,
yes.
the first time that we actually have a proper conversation.
Yep. Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to participate.
Before we begin, I just want to ask, how is your heart doing?
My heart is getting old. So
Oh,
you know we have that saying, you're as old as you feel. I feel like a solid 64.
oh my, wow, wow, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
No, it's doing good. It's doing good
I
every
highly doubt
day.
that, though. You're someone who does lots of
No,
activities. I highly doubt.
no, it's doing well every day. Being grateful for the blessings that I'm surrounded with. Family, great friends. Man, air conditioning. I'm not a difficult
Amen.
man to please. Good food and air conditioning, I'm set.
Amen to that, especially when you live in Dubai. So, amen to
Yes.
that. Ali, for those who don't know you, you are an instructor at the AUS and you're one of the
Hmm.
co-founders of Mental Health UAE.
Yes.
Could you just also, expand a little bit on that?
Sure. I'll tell you a little bit more. I came to the UAE in January of 1999 as a student. I graduated. I started working at the university itself. I've been there since. Now I teach within management. I teach a variety of different subjects. So about 2-ish years ago, I was sitting with a friend of mine, and we were working on a totally unrelated project. And she brought up in conversation how one of her friends was having some mental health struggles. And me being so calm and casual about stuff, I said, just Google it. Like, why are you asking me dumb questions? Like, this is people have issues. This is life. Just Google it. Answer should be there. She goes, I can't find anything. I'm like, give me the laptop. I started typing stuff in. All I saw was ads. I'm like, what is going on? How is this? And I told him, listen, give me a day or so. Let me look at it. I think I'm just searching wrong. Something's wrong. So the academic side of me kicked in,
Mhm.
uh, deep dive, and then all of a sudden I started looking at the global data, and I was like, this is wrong. This data is wrong. How is it 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people are impacted by mental health issues? How? I teach 100 students a year. You're telling me 25 of them have something going on? No, I never see this. Nobody talks about this. And then that realization kind of clicked after a point. Like I tipped over to, wait a second. Yes, there are significant issues, but they're not talking about it because of the stigma, because of the shame associated with it, because of culture, and this just tribal mentality that we have. And then all of a sudden, I was like, something needs to be done. So my background is business. I'm not in healthcare or any sector of healthcare. But in business, we're always taught to see where an opportunity is. And my mother taught me from a very young age, if you see a problem, it needs to be fixed. And if nobody's fixing it, you fix it. You don't have to be the expert. You just have to be the first person to do something.
To be
And then
perfect.
hopefully more people would join. So, fast forward a couple of days from my initial conversation, I sent a web link, mentalhealth.ae. It didn't open anything. I sent it to my current co-founder, Latifa. She's like, what is this? I'm like, this apparently is going to be our new project. Congratulations. And that's how we
There you
started. And the
go.
idea was simple. Like, it took me a while to find information and to understand it. I'm like, let's put it together.
Yeah.
Let's start putting it together. So at least when somebody's looking, they don't have to spend the amount of time I spent looking. They don't have to find, mountains of misinformation or complicated information. Let's start simple. Once you get the little bit,
The
then
basic.
you can search more. And as time went on, we were very much, because we don't make money in this venture. It's very much community driven. So we've held focus groups, we hold regular meetups, regular support groups, informative talks.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, we've done corporate events, university awareness events, and everything we've done has come out of what somebody's told us. Hey, Ali, you know what? We need to. It would be nice to have a place to sit with people and just be able to have a conversation. Okay, you want like a support group? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Enough of those
That's
comments repeat.
simple.
It moves to our top of the list, and if it's within our ability to do it, we do it. So that's in a tiny nutshell, simplifying a little bit. That's kind of how we started.
So basically, it came to you rather than you thought about it. You were called to do it. That's how I see things. Like some things
Yes.
I remember once I was on a podcast as a guest, and she was telling me, "Why did you choose this business? Why raise your mental health?" I did not choose it; it chose
No.
me. um,
Uh,
so
Great.
yeah,
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. And this is something, again, you hear me refer to my mom a lot in all of my discussions. She's a great influence in my life. And she always used to tell me, she goes, God will put problems in your path because you're supposed to fix them. God will put people in your path because you're supposed to help them. And she's like, if you're going to find something, that's because you're hungry, man.
oh,
You're only gonna go find food. And she goes, I'll take care of your food, but you take care of what God puts in your path.
oh
So
wow, I
I've
love your
lived my entire
mom.
life with that same philosophy. Yeah, she's the best. She still thinks I'm thin, so bless her, bless
I
her
love
heart. She comes sees me. I'm like, Mama, in which part of me looks thin to you? I'm like, massive. She goes, no, I'll cook you something. I'm like, Mama, I already ate. She goes, you can eat again. And then while I'm eating, literally, I'm eating the food she's made.
What do you want
Ali,
for dessert?
I think you really need to start going to the gym a little bit. I'm like, Mama, I'm literally still halfway through the food you cook that I already told you I had lunch. No, finish this sentence after. And then after, as you said, what do you want for dinner? So Mama's philosophy is feed Ali. But no, going circling back, it's always been, if a problem's been put in your path, it was put there by God for you to fix it as best you can. And if a person was put there, it's because they need your help, and maybe they don't know it, maybe you don't know it, so figure it out. So it's been an interesting life.
I love that. Before we started recording that, you mentioned something that was beautiful for me to hear. And to be very honest, I haven't heard anyone say that before,
Mhm.
like anyone.
Yeah.
So you said, I grew up in a home that doesn't have any taboos. There's nothing
Mhm.
as a taboo. So for me to actually see that people are scared or shy to talk about their struggles came to me as a surprise. How does that
Yeah, it's been interesting. So I actually grew up in Saudi. I'm originally from Pakistan, but moved over when I was a few months old. I grew up in Saudi, and I, much later in life, I think high school and college was when I really started to have the realization that my parents were different than everybody else's, and then my upbringing was very different. My father has had a very very hands off approach. He's like, your life, do what you want with it. Last time, just to give you a point of reference, last time he saw a report card was my second grade report card. And then I remember this as if it was yesterday. He goes, why are you showing this to me? This is your report card. You have to do things that you are proud of. If you want to become something, become something. If you want to become nothing, become nothing. It's your life. My job as your parent is to provide you with the opportunity. Your job is to do whatever you want with it. I'm like, okay, no report card. Yeah. I mean, I was second grade, right? But
wow.
that's been, and it's been great because it pushes you to a point of independence, and that independence teaches you very quickly responsibility, and you learn that once you have responsibility, you have power, and that equation works both ways. That once you have power, you have responsibility. Uh, my mother, her philosophy on education has been very simple. If you have a question, don't ask random people and just collect answers from random people. You have sources, you have books. Here's a stack of books. I would ask her a question and she'd leave a stack of books on my table. Here, the answer's in there. And I'm like, oh, I gotta read. So I would read. And then now that I have learned a little bit, now I would go to my mom and now we'd have a dialogue. Say, Mama, this is what was written here, but I disagree with. What do you think? Oh, I think this. I think this. So my entire anything, whether it was religion, whether it was politics, whether anything, whatever, including, imagine, I'm 42 now. So when I was a kid, sex education in the region was still very kind of hush hush. I knew, I think, almost every kid who had a Middle Eastern or South Asian background in my class when we had that two days of the entire school year of sex ed. They didn't get the permission slip. I had a permission slip from my mom signed. She goes, yes, you have to know about all these things. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, why aren't any of the rest of my friends here? Like, why were they not given permission
I mean,
sex ed class?
for them, you're the one who's weird.
Yes.
For you,
Exactly.
that's what's going on. I love that, especially that this generation, we are working so hard to not only to break the stigma, but also to break the generational chain and patterns. But it seems that your parents have already done that. Where did they get
Yes.
that from?
Honestly, I think it was when they moved. So my mom and dad got married in their early 20s. And then Saudi was the first job my dad had. So when he left Pakistan for Saudi, that was his first job back in the, I want to say, mid 70s. I think living alone and not being surrounded by family, not being surrounded by culture, not being surrounded by the old school gave my mom the opportunity to really come into her own.
Yeah.
And that was a journey of learning and growth for her. And I remember many discussions we have, and I'm like, Mama, why are like some of our family people weird? She goes, they have a belief system and structure that's based on, this is what I was told.
Yeah.
And she goes, when I when I moved to Saudi, I didn't have friends, I didn't know anybody, but I had access to information, I had access to books, and I had to unlearn a lot of the things that I was taught, and then I had to relearn the right thing. And so we got to skip it. Me and my sister, when I say we, it's me and my sister, just two of us, we didn't have the exposure to the, oh, what will so and so say, or what will this person think, or what will this person say or do. We never had that. That was not even a concept to us. Later in life, I realized, or I would observe my mother when I was older, high school, college, that I would hear her on the phone and somebody would be talking whatever, and she goes, "Don't you dare talk about my children. I'm gonna smack you across your face." And I'm like, is that my mom? Oh my God, she's like the most calm Zen Buddha person I know. Did she just say that to somebody on the phone? Oh my goodness. I would look at my sister, I'm like, I'm feeling scared. But she defended us, and she defended family, and she said family is off limits. You cannot talk, touch, think about my children. Don't. They are independent. I have raised them to be, the best that they can be, and the objective of their lives is to give back to community and give back to the world. And that's kind of how we've operated. And that's exactly the same philosophy I raised my kids on. My daughter just finished her GCSEs a few months ago. She started, the current school year. And these high school studies are tough. Yeah. And I keep telling her, I'm like, she goes, oh, Baba, I have an exam. I'm like, skip it, man. What do you mean skip it? I'm like, skip it. Why are you stressing? It's just a stupid exam. Skip it. Oh, but I'll fail. I'm like, who cares? It's just an exam. Let's go get some food. But she's like one of the nerdy nerd kids, so she has to study. But then, I'll be like,
but at least
I
love
yes, I don't put any pressure on her, and I didn't have any pressure on me, from my father or my mother for education. Like, you're doing it for you. And what you need to chase in life is not grades. What you need to chase is experience and learning. So I try to push and instill the same on my children. And, my daughter's told me so many times, she goes, Baba, you're weird. All my friends' dads tell them they have to study. And you're the one saying, just drop out of school. I'm like, yeah, man, let's drop out of school. It'd be so much fun. We'll take a whole year off. We'll do fun stuff. We'll do art projects. And she's just looking at me like I'm crazy. But the reality is that so many of us are caught up in this race. And when you sit down with somebody and ask them, hey man, what's this race that you're in? Nobody can explain it. They just see everybody running. And they're like, oh, I should be running too. And I'm like, where are you running to? I don't know. What are you running to achieve? Don't know.
We don't know.
Because, that guy's running. That guy doesn't know why he's running either. He just saw somebody else running. And they're like, Ali, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in a nice chair having a cup of karak, sitting in the desert, watching the sunset.
I'm good.
I was doing that yesterday. I'm good. This is the purpose of life, is not to run around. You're going to chase money. You'll chase it till you're in the grave and you can't do anything with it. Maybe all of us as humans need to rethink what has been taught to us as the objectives and our participation in this world, in this life. Most people I see are still chasing money. And when you really, really sit down with them and have a conversation, most of them are sad, which is so unfortunate.
I love the part when your mom had to unlearn stuff so she could hold the space for new things to learn and to help her grow. And not only that, to basically build a family based on genuine and authentic values. How do you teach your kids that? Because it's
I
not easy
think the
to
most,
unlearn
yes,
something.
no,
It's not easy.
it's not easy. It's not easy, and I didn't realize. I mean, I gotta hand it to my mother. She made it look simple. She made it look flawless. But once I became a parent, I realized that it's significantly more difficult.
Mm.
And I think the most, and the times are different. You know, with the kids having access to technology and they're able to like be on their phone and just kind of zone out to a different universe. Versus when I grew up, there was no internet. It's very the dynamic is very different. And I think the most important thing, and I have to very actively work on this. You know, a lot of parents think it's passive. It's not. You have to very actively work on this. And I think for me, the key has been to build communication. To not just not ask the kids, hey, how was school? That question, if you think about it for a moment, is pointless. You know, the question should not be how was school today. The question should be
That
what
says
did what
hi.
did you do? What did you do? What was fun today? Ooh, did you get in trouble? Did anybody get in trouble in your class today? What's the tea? Tell me what's going on. You want to engage them in their life. You cannot assume that your life is your life and they're part of it. No, they have their own life. So you have to engage them as a spectator in their life and not the other way around. So having that communication, I think, is key, and it's not easy. They're already on the back foot talking to their parents. Their kids by default are worried they'll get in trouble. You know, my kids, they tell me, well, I'm sure they don't tell me everything, but I can guarantee they tell me more than their friends tell their parents. And what I've told them is, I'm like, guys, look, I've done stupid stuff in my life. And my grandma lives their grandmother lives 10 minutes away. My mom is over every other day to visit. So they know they have a good relationship with their grandmother. And I tell them, like, listen, your grandmother let me do whatever I wanted. And she said, you're responsible. I mean, I remember I was maybe 16, 15, 16. And this was when I was in Saudi and I was going out with some friends. And my mother never asked me where you're going. This is before cell phones, yeah? You didn't know. Once you're out the door, you don't until the person's back. And out of courtesy, remember responsibility, we talked about independence and responsibility. Out of courtesy, I'm like, Mama, I'm going to go with my friends to a shisha place. Probably be back in a couple of hours. Her only concern is like, you have money for food? I'm like, Mama, I got money for food. Don't worry. So at 16, I'm going to a shisha place with my friends. My friends freaked out. They're like, your mom knows you're going to a shisha place? Man, is she going to tell our moms? I'm like, bro, my mom don't tattletale. What are you talking about? But why would you tell your mother that? I'm like,
Why
no
not?
reason to hide it. I got no reason to hide it. What? Like what you gonna do? Like nothing. You gonna say don't go? She already knows that I know the harms of smoking.
Yeah.
So I have made a conscious, educated decision to do something stupid, which impacts who? Me.
Me.
Right? Okay. So out of courtesy, I just wanted her to know where I'm going. So she knows I'll take care of my dinner or whatever it is. And they found that shocking. They would find that so shocking.
Yeah, I can
That I
completely
can have
relate.
an open dialogue. So I try to kind of let my children know the same thing, that you can come to me with whatever issue you're having or whatever problem you're facing. You don't have to hide it. Baba's not going to get angry because you're going to make mistakes. But you need to know that you can come to Baba if there's an issue. Not, oh, I can't go tell Baba. I'm going to just kind of suffer with this, or I'm going to find the wrong solution to this. Come to me. You've already screwed up. You can't undo it. Come to me and I'll tell you, maybe I have a recommendation because maybe I screwed up the same thing back in my day. And when I share stories of my youth with them, they're just looking at me like, oh, you're such a troublemaker. I'm like, I know, right? Yeah. No, I'm blessed. I got great kids. They listen most of the time. They listen, and they're both in their teens now. Zoha is 16, Abdullah's 14.
Wow.
And now I get the why. I'm like, well, there's two answers to that. There's the because I said so answer, and then there's the logical answer. I'll give you the logical answer first, which you're not going to understand because your brain doesn't want to hear it. And then I'll follow up with the because Baba said so. So they get both, but they don't get the Baba said so first. They get the logical answer first because, I don't think this is good because of 1, 2, 3. Therefore,
But
you don't have
Ali, this is very important. So thank you so much for doing that. I was raised with a dad just like you. We had communication. We had something called the circle of trust, where I literally used to go and tell him everything, whatever comes to your mind, everything I used to share with my dad. And he used to share a lot of wisdom with me. So back then, it did not really make sense. I used to enjoy listening to what he has to say to me, but I did not really comprehend the message until I was really in my mid-20s, where, oh, that's what he meant. Oh, now it makes sense. From my experience as a daughter to a dad, just like literally just like you, I believe it will help your kids to be more confident, comfortable and with their own skin, to speak their truth, to just be themselves, and to just know that it's okay to make mistakes and then learn out of it or make the best out of whatever situation I'm in, and that I'm supported both ways.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. And this is the same discussion I have with my friends who have kids. I'm like, guys, calm down. Like, calm down. Why? These are your kids. They're not your enemies. Calm down. Talk to them. They may look small, but they're adults. My daughter is maybe like 2 inches shorter than I am at this point. But I'm not gonna lie. When I see her, I remember her when she was this big. Like I remember her when I held her the day she was born. I was the first person to give her a bath. I remember this as if it's yesterday, so clearly in my head. I have these memories of her entire childhood. Like I can segment and tell you exactly, because I always wanted to be an active participant. But I have to remind myself that, yes, Ali, even though in your head she's this baby,
but
she's a young adult. So I have to actively remind myself. And this is where I think the important part of our discussion is, where it's not a passive thing. You don't just become a parent passive. You have to be active. You have to actively, and I have to remind myself that, no, this is a young adult. Talk to them like they're a young adult, and you spoil them later. So I have my time where I will, take my daughter. I'm like, let's go get ice cream, or let's go for a drive or whatever. But that's separate. But when they're going through adult stuff, I talk to them, treat them like adults, because that's how my mom dealt with me. And for the most part, I think it was a great experience. And I think I came out with a relatively balanced perspective on life. Going back to the mental health thing, I could talk to my mother about anything. If I had a question on sex ed or mental health or you name it, there was not a single topic that was off the table. Whatever it was, even now, I can call her up and say, "Mama, I was thinking about this, but what do you think about this?" And then whatever. And another dynamic that I feel that was very interesting. And again, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel when it was happening. I only realized till I think after I had my kids, that my mom throughout my life, in my early years, she was a parent. And then she transitioned from parent to parent/friend. And then she transitioned from parent/friend to friend. And then she transitioned from friend to me being her confidant and advisor. She calls me for advice on like a million different things. And I'll be like, she's like, "Oh, Ali, what do you think about this real estate opportunity?" I'm like, Mama, I don't know. I don't think, well, why do you think that is? I'm like, this. Okay. Because I used to ask her for advice. And now that dynamic has shifted to she's asking me for a lot of advice. I mean, it's both ways, but the weight has shifted a little bit. Like let's say it's a 70-30 split, but that split has not shifted. I never noticed it till, I got married, I had kids. I'm like, wait a second. Mom, man, you so sneaky. How'd you do this? How did you do this? And I had so many of my friends in college. I'll give you an example. First year of college here. And then I'm like, hey guys, let's go for a movie. Like 4 of them went to their separate corners and started calling home to get permission for a movie. And I'm just like, why are they calling the parents? Is everything okay? and then they're like, oh, they're calling to get permission. I'm like, bro, you're in college. Like, okay, like that's a lot of umbrella parenting going on, but okay. And then just as a joke, I'm like, wait, let me call my mom. I call my mama. She goes, yes. I'm like, Mama, everyone's going for a movie. Can I go for a movie? She goes, are you feeling okay? Why are you asking me stupid questions?
Oh my God.
So again, that realization that I was brought up differently over high school and college kind of unfolded itself. But that transition, and this is what I try now with my kids, is now I don't deal with them the same way, or my dealing with them has changed when they were 2, 5, 10, 15, because they're not the same person, right? They grow and mature. You have to change the way you communicate with them. And I'm not gonna lie, it's harder the older they get, but you got to still put the effort in.
Wow. You're talking, and lots of stories about people I know is rolling in my mind, because this is what healthy feels like. But for people who don't know the taste of it, would look at it like, tell me more. Like, how
Yeah.
does it feel
Yeah.
to just be loved from a very young age, or be trusted, or be given the wow,
Mhm.
that's how could
No, but it's been interesting. You know, my sister's younger, and I think it's not, and just because she's younger, she's always had less responsibility because I would take care of whatever before, and even that's true even now. And I remember my sister complaining to my mother. I don't even remember what the context was, but something that I did, and then when my sister wanted to do or needed permission for, she was told no, and then she was like, "Mama, is this because I'm a girl?" And my mom was like, "No, it's
oh
because you're irresponsible." Burst out laughing. But it's so true. And you know, the other thing, you know, since we're on that subject, the other thing is we never had a gender issue in the house.
I love that.
I'll give you an example from my own kids, and this, by the way, applies to me and my sister. Like it's copy paste. You know, I'll be sitting, and this is, I'll give you an example of every Friday, our maid has the day off. She goes to whatever. So Fridays we are 100% on our own. So my son he's an early riser. So this is when he's about 10ish, 9 or 10. So I'll come downstairs and he's like, Baba, you want some breakfast? I'm like, yeah, man. What do you want, Baba? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? You want some scrambled eggs? I'm like, yeah. You want cheesy scrambled eggs? I'm like, yeah. Toast? I'm like, yeah. You want some baked beans? I'm like, yeah. You want me to like crisp up some turkey bacon for you? I'm like, yeah. 9, 10 years old. Yeah. He goes to the kitchen. He makes all of this. He sets the table, little jam, butter, the knives, salt, pepper. It's all set. It is all set. He knows his way around the kitchen from a young age. My daughter, Zozo, Baba's really tired. Can you make me a cup of green tea? And green tea, just so we're clear, I'm not I'm very easy on these things. You take the cup, you put it under the water cooler. You don't even have to heat the water. I don't bother with the kettle. Just put it in the hot button on the water cooler. Put the tea bag. Put like a
That's it.
teaspoon of honey. Shake and give it to me. Baba, does it even look like I know where the cups are?
Oh my God.
And then she just walks off. And I'm just standing laughing. She knows nothing in the kitchen. Nothing. And I've told her, I'm like, Zoha, when you go to college, Baba's going to have to go with you because you're going to like starve and die. I'll have to cook for you. I'm an independent woman. I'm like, no, you're not. You can't even make a cup of tea. So we've never had that gender role thingy that the girl's got to be in the kitchen. She's got to know this. No, nothing. That I was never brought up with it. Me and my sister, anything I was allowed to do, my sister was allowed to do. Anything she was allowed to do, I was allowed to do. And it's the same policy in my house. So if Zoha wants to go out with her friends, she can go. If Abdullah wants to go out with his friends, there is no, oh, he can do this because he's a guy and you can't do this because you're a girl. That never happens in my house. Never. That's not going to ever happen. That's impossible. But I see it everywhere. And not only with my generation of my friends when I grew up with, but I'm seeing it now with my friends' children. I'm like, guys, this is not good. This is not good for the mental health of your children. You cannot create this gender-based bias in your own household. When your daughter gets married, she's gonna assume that she asserts in a very submissive, lesser role than her husband is. This is wrong. This is not in any of our religion. This is not how it's supposed to be done. This is not humanity. No, fix this. And then, every single one of my friends I've had this discussion with, you see that little light bulb and they're like, wait, Ali, you're right. How was I doing this stupid stuff? I'm like, you were doing this stupid stuff because that's what you saw growing up. You never questioned it. You never questioned it. Always ask why. Always ask why. My entire life, my debates with my mom have been why. And then the conversation was always, let's explore the reasoning behind this or the reasoning behind this, or why is it done this way, or why is it done that way?
That's a very good point. But I think
I've learned everything
most people do not ask why because they're scared. So
not only are they scared, children stop asking once they stop getting the answers. And this is honestly, it's shameful and it's embarrassing. When your child asks you a question, answer the question. I told you my first answer is the answer. My second answer is Baba said so, because at that point, you're not listening to the explanation I gave you. But I gave the explanation. I explain the context of why I made the decision I made. This is the rule. Why can you not have a TV in your room here? Why can you not have a internet connection and computer in your room until a certain age? Here, this is Baba's reasoning. This is the logic. But most kids just get told no. Or the traditional word here that we get in this region is aib. Everything's aib. Why is everything aib? Why? Why is everything all of a sudden become?
Raised by a mother. My mom used to say, if I laugh out loud, that's aib. Don't laugh out loud. Don't sit like that. Don't do this. Don't be too bubbly. That's me. But what do you mean? Because it's aib.
Yes. Yeah. And the other, and I have a lot of students over the years who come and told me, they're like, sir, it's refreshing being in your class because you talk to us as if we're the same. I'm like, we are the same. I'm like, listen, I'm talking with you. I'm not talking to you. And she goes, no, but we have a lot of faculty that talk to us as if we're dumb. I'm like, listen, nobody on the planet knows everything. The difference between knowing and not knowing, or rather not knowing and knowing, that difference is learning. And you are literally in my classroom to learn. I don't expect you to have the answers. I expect you to have questions, and I expect you to explore the answers with me. So we learn together, right? And I remember one of my students, like, she goes, sir, there's this, I was brought up in a family where either it's aib or not. You're going to go to, like, you're going to, whatever, you can't do this because hey, you're going to go to hellfire. And I was like, I don't even know what that word is. I never heard of it until I became an adult and I heard it from other people. I'm like, these sort of words were never spoken in my house. This was never done. Be who you want to be the best that you can be, give back to the community. I mean, we were brought up with a very, very, very strong emphasis on giving back to community. My kids, every Ramadan, we try to do stuff throughout the year, but Ramadan is kind of like, okay, man, we've been slacking off. Let's get serious. It's just an excuse, right? I'm like, guys, it's Ramadan. Let's go. We got to go distribute the meals. We got to go do this. And my mother is still very active. She literally called me up. She goes, Ali, I'm coming tomorrow. Clean out your wardrobes. So whatever you're not wearing or whatever you have not worn, I don't care if it's new. I don't care if it's used. Put it in a box. I'm collecting it. I'm going to distribute it. And she does this just before winter. And she does this just before the season changes because she knows that people might not have like warm jackets or whatever. And now she tells the kids, my kids, she goes, clean out your wardrobes. The clothes that are too small for you, or you have outgrown them, or you're not using them, clean them out. So that sense of community involvement, the sense of giving back to the community, that's the default that we were brought up with. So that's, even now, my kids, they think the same way. Abdullah, from a very young age, like he's like maybe 3 years old or something, we would go to the little tiny supermarket in the university, and he doesn't even like chocolate. I mean, he eats it because other kids eat it, and he thinks I'm supposed to like it. But he likes, like, you give him a pizza, you give him bandi, like, he's a big foodie, but savory stuff, big foodie. But chocolate is not high on his list. He'll eat it, but so he'll be there, he'll buy chocolate, and he'll have 5 bars of chocolate. And there's only 4 of us in the family. It's like, me, the missus, and the 2 kids. I'm like, Abdullah, and I know what he did. I'm like, Abdullah, why did you get how many chocolate did you get? Baba, 1 for you, 1 for Mama, 1 for Zuzu, 1 for me, and 1 for Lean, the maid. So she's family. She comes in the count when he gets food. And this is when he was a tiny kid. Now, him and his friends, every Thursday, they're meeting. Now, post-COVID, their friends are getting to finally meet up. So every Thursday, they're over at our house. And all of his friends, they get together. These guys watch movies. They order pizza or whatever. And what they do is all of them, they chip in. And I love this. And I didn't tell them this, yeah? They came up themselves. They all chip in and they order pizza, like 3, 4, 5 pizzas. And in that math of how many pizzas are going to get ordered for how many of him and his friends, part of that math is there needs to be 1 pizza for Lean, who's our maid. And I didn't tell them this. This is their own thing. They're like, no,
but
she takes care of us.
You led by example.
Yes.
At some point, you won't be, you won't have, you won't need to say anything because khalas, it's becoming like a built-in thing. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is great for me. I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I think I didn't do too bad. I think I did all right raising my
You did a
kids.
great job.
But but Ray, honestly, like I told you, I've said this, I'm saying it again. It's an active effort. I see so many parents on cruise control, on passive mode, and they're like, oh, when did you grow up? When did you become an adult? And they don't know anything about what's happening in their kids' lives.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. I mean, even the apps they use, they're on Snap. I have a Snap. They're on Insta. I'm on Insta. Whatever apps the kids are using, I have it also. I want to understand how these apps work. I want to understand what are the potential risks associated with it, because then I can have a conversation with them. Like, guys, don't be accepting some random requests from stupid people. You know this, right? Yes. Don't be sending no pictures to nobody. Well, but do we look stupid? I'm like, yeah. Listen to what I'm telling you, right? I know you know, but I need to make sure that you know, and then you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, I just need to reconfirm it, like, you know. And then
mean,
the
what's
nice
the
thing is
downside of
they
this?
tell their friends. Sorry,
What's
again.
the downside of this?
It's exhausting. It takes effort. It is exhausting and it takes effort. But the upside is so much, so worth it. You have a great relationship with your kids. You're able to talk and you're able to communicate. I mean, I know, you know, my kids' friends who are different
Yeah.
when they're with their friends, and they're different at the house if they're at home. And I said, no, I don't want you to be living two lives. You live one life, your life. You live the same life in the house, outside, with your friends, in your school. You have to be you. I don't want you to have these different personalities, because this is the personality my parents want to see. You know, goody goody, no issues, whatever. And then outside, I'm like, because that creates friction inside your mind, and that creates stress inside your mind, and then you have a very
Confused
dark outlook on the world. Exactly. You feel like I have to look a certain way for certain people. No, man, just be you. If people don't accept you for you, that's their problem. Be you. Be honest with yourself, and that can only be done if you've taught your children to be honest with themselves. If you teach them that no, because what people will think and what family will think or what the neighbors will say, you have to look a certain way, then that's what you're teaching them. You're teaching them to be deceptive. You're teaching them to be polar in their lives. You're teaching them, that's the wrong thing to teach them. And then this creates problems. I have so many friends who have not been able to get married for so long because the lifestyle and the person who they are outside the house, outside their parents' house, needs a certain type of significant other, but their parents' expectation of a significant other is something totally different. If they marry the type of person they want to marry, people at home will be alienated. If they marry the type of person that people at home want to marry, they will be living a miserable life. So they just haven't been able to get married. And I've told my guys, marry the person you want to marry because you're the one who's going to live with them.
100%.
People at home, what's the worst? They'll get pissed off for a while. They'll calm down. That's it. Just do it. And so many of them have done it, and alhamdulillah, they're happy now. But because they were brought up in an environment where they were taught that you have to have different appearances, this creates massive confusion inside a person.
Wow. And I feel like I'm just listening to music, brilliant music. You know, it's really interesting that this is the first time, and I told you that it's the first time that I have a conversation like that. It's always about awareness. It's always about what can be done. But this is a proof that it's done. Like, it's done, guys. And it takes effort. Yeah. It's exhausting, as you said, but it's so worth it. Like, I want to ask about, so I'm pretty sure you and your wife are on the same page when it comes to parenting. And how does it work with you guys? Keeping
this is going to be very interesting. A lot of people assume that the parents have to be on the same page to be able to parent. First, in my ever so humble opinion, I think that's impossible because both of you are coming from very different backgrounds, different life experiences, being raised by different parents, right? So you're going to bring a lot of that to the table. I'm bringing everything my mom taught me to the table. I'm bringing also what my dad did and did not do to the table. He never looked at a report card. You know what? I'm going to look at a report card. So as my mom said, you learn the good from everybody And the things that you don't like, you also learn by not doing those things. You learn from both sides of the equation. So me and my wife have different perspectives on many things, right? And then when we bring those to the table, the children get exposure to both of them. And a lot of times, my daughter will, Mama said this. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Or they'll come to me like, oh, Mama said this. I'm like, Mama, I don't know what you're talking about. Or my daughter will go to Mama and say, Baba said I don't have to go to school tomorrow. Baba doesn't know you have to go to school tomorrow. So it's a dynamic where,
house.
they get both perspectives. Yeah. And then the idea is that we kind of move forward with the better of the two. So Baba says, skip school. By the way, Zoha skipped school like last week for a day. I got in trouble. You let her skip school? I'm like, yeah, man. Oops, sorry. So I'll say skip school is okay. And mommy will be like, no, it's not okay. So between those two, yeah, go to school. Or mommy was like, no, you can't do this. And Baba's like, yeah, you can do this. And then, okay, Baba's. So in both of them, we just look at whichever one seems, we got our two perspectives. Let's move forward with the one that we feel is better for the kids. And it's not a competition that, oh, I got to be right. Or, she's got to be right. It's just about, okay, you have your life experiences that you're bringing to the table. I have mine. I was like raised with a very, hands-off approach by my father. Maybe not the best, especially given the complexities of social interaction and digital media and everything today. You need to be a little bit more hands-on. But I think it helps us find a balance. So the idea is bring the best of both. And then if you feel like something is a little bit too far off what it should be, then the other person will have that adjustment or correction for it. So, we're okay. Zoha wanted to go to Switzerland with her school group. I was like, hell no, you're not going to Switzerland with your school. But Bob, I'm like, will Abdullah get to go when he gets to this grade? I'm like, no, you guys have the same rules. Nobody's going to Switzerland on a school trip. But why? Because Zoha, if there's an emergency, Baba's a 10-hour flight away. That's not going to work. That's not going to, Baba cannot, no. If you want to go, Baba's going with you. Oh my God, Baba, what would my friends say? I'm like, I don't care about you.
I don't care.
I don't care about your friends. I'm the Baba. I don't care about your friends. I care about you. That's it. So she it took her a while. She understood. But at least I gave her the explanation. Her friends were just told, no, you can't go alone. You're a girl. You can't go alone. Many of her friends were told that. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so wrong. I'm like, no, it wasn't because you're a girl or you're a boy. I just can't. I'm not ready to let you go at this age and go somewhere into a different country that I can't get to. God forbid there's an emergency. Now, is that me being overprotective? We can have that argument. We can have that discussion. And over time, I have to kind of, just as my mother, learn to let go and let them be their own person. But that's still a decision I need to make. That is this age. Are you okay to go to Switzerland at age 12? No. Are you okay to go at 16? Maybe. Are you okay to go at 18? Yeah, we'll discuss it.
About it.
The answer is yes, but Baba has like issues letting go.
But that's a very interesting distinction, is that communication is happening both ways. One where you're adding the value to your kids, you're trying to create something healthy for them, independent and free. But on the other hand, Baba can still be vulnerable and has his own fears, and I will communicate that to you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because your rejection, or not the rejection, but the no here was not about your daughter. It was about you being not ready. I love that.
Yep. Yeah. And I've told, and they know, like, my daughter still makes fun. She's like, I remember all of us were sitting at a dinner table. My parents were over, we're sitting at the dinner table, and the kids had just come back from a trip to England. And Zoha had like done a campus tour of Oxford and a bunch of other places. He's like, oh my God, Baba, it's so nice, so nice. Oh, I want to go to university, blah, blah. I want to go here. I think I'm going to go there. I'm going to work. And then I'm just like, Zoha, you can go to any university in the planet that you want to go to. My mom, her spoon of food was like right here, and she just froze. Did Ali just say that Zoha could go to any university in the world? Like, she just froze. She didn't say anything. He just froze. And my daughter's like, really? Really? I'm like, yes. Baba's going to quit his job and he's going to go with you. Then my mom smiled and started eating again. What do you mean? What When can I travel alone? When you're 35. What if I get married? I'm like, yeah, I can't travel with my husband. I'm like, hell no, I don't trust that fool. You got to be married minimum 10 years before I can trust a guy to take you to another country. And then my mom is laughing and laughing and laughing. And so I'm still a dad who's got a daughter. I don't know what to tell you, man. I remember when she was 2 and I had to put nail polish on her hands, I couldn't even see where her nails were. And now you're telling me that she's gonna like travel alone? No, man.
I'm so scared
I need
to
a
ask
minute.
that question at this
My
point.
heart needs a minute.
Oh my God. So, okay, I'm scared to ask that question. But speaking of marriage and stuff, are your daughters, started dating?
No, well, that philosophy is still a little bit old school. So what I've told both the kids is school is not the time to be doing this stuff. You need to kind of concentrate on
your logical reasons, of course.
Yeah, you need to concentrate on you. You need to concentrate on building yourself up as a human. If you're gonna start dating now, you're definitely not getting married to whoever you're dating. You're just gonna create trouble for yourself. And they realize as they look at their friends and they're like, yeah, man, they just broke up and then they did, and then Baba's right. And I said, look, when you get to college, now you're 18, 19, you're getting into early adulthood, you're being more responsible. This is where you want to potentially explore these things. But like, for example, right now, I have no issues with them having friends of the other gender. It's perfectly, I mean, you go to school with them.
Yeah.
You're gonna work in a mixed environment. So why would I have this bipolar type of attitude where, okay, outside you can meet whoever, guys, girls, but inside the house, no, you can't have guys, girls. And I've told them, like, you're welcome to invite your friends, guys, girls, mixed. I don't mind. They still don't do that on their own initiative. I don't know, maybe they're embarrassed of that, but that's a different thing. But they don't. Zaha she's invited her friends over, but so far just girls. She hasn't invited any of the guys. And I told her, I don't have any issue, bring them. And I've told my son the same thing. He had a birthday party last week. He was all guys. I'm like, don't have any girls to invite? Baba, we're going to be in the desert and we're going to be having fun. And the girls don't know how to have fun in the desert. I'm like,
no.
Okay, I'll give you another year to adjust that statement. Go. So it's open. And the thing I tell them is like, this is how I was. Again, going back to when I was in college, I had friends, both genders. I had a party. If I have a party at my house or I'm inviting them over for dinner, everybody gets invited. There was no segregation on gender. But I think the whole relationship thing needs to kick in probably at college, because this is when you're enough of an adult or early years of being a full adult where your brain starts to understand the length of what a relationship needs to be, and not just, oh, let's go on a date, let's go watch a movie. No, this is not what it is. You're looking for something bigger, you're looking for something long term. Right now, the kids can't even plan till next week, let alone a year from now, let alone a few years. But once you get to college, and I've seen this when I was in college, and I see this with my students all the time. Now they're thinking, oh, I graduate, I want to do this, I have this career aspiration, oh, I don't want to do this, I want to travel. If you're going to be picking a partner that you want to spend your life with, a lot of that has to do with understanding who you are first. And I think a lot of relationships simply fail because the person does not even know who they are. And then you're trying to overlap your life, which you don't know, with somebody who also doesn't know. So you're both kind of setting yourself up for failure, which honestly is sad, because independently you're great people, but you just didn't give yourself enough time to develop and mature. So I think it has a time and place. Not in my opinion, and I'm sure many people may differ on this. I don't think that's school. I remember myself in school. I remember, my friends back in school.
I agree.
So immature.
I agree.
I think college is the right age to start having conversations, not necessarily, getting into very serious relationships, but somewhere there. And then again, it depends on level of maturity also. Generally, in my experience, what I've seen is girls mature faster than guys do. Guys are just doing stupid stuff. Like, I don't know, I was talking to a friend of mine and she's like, when do you think guys get mature? I'm like, maybe late 30s. She just looked at me like, what? I'm like, I don't want to lie to you, man. Guys are pretty immature. It takes them a while to get their shit together. But that's another factor. The girls, even if you look at school and high school, girls are so much more mature. They're so much more concerned with grades. They're so much more concerned with being like, on top of stuff, having their life organized. And
Things,
guys are just
goals,
like running,
ambitions, yeah.
yeah, and guys are just like running rampant, like in random, like headless chickens. And I'm like, and I see this one. I'm like, Abdullah, can you like sit down and focus? Like, please, like focus. Yeah, Baba. And then he's gone somewhere. I'm like, where do you go? Oh, I gotta play basketball. So it's okay. It's like herding chicken at some point. But there is a difference between guys and girls for sure. I mean, I'm not saying that they're unequal. I'm just saying that they develop differently and at different paces and in different parts of their life. And I think college is probably the right time to explore relationships.
Will Baba Ali be okay with that?
Of course not. You got to be 35. So a lot of the parenting development that I do or I need to do is not the kids, it's me.
It's you, yeah.
And even my mom makes fun of it. She goes, "Are you ever gonna calm down?" I'm like, "No."
Nope.
She's like, "She's my baby. She's this big, Mama. She's this big." And she's like, "I remember when she was this big. I remember when you were this big." Yeah, Mom. You turn out okay. I'm like, debatable. So yeah, a lot of the learning I have to do as a parent is to learn to let go. And not gonna lie, I mean, I love my kids equally, but with daughters, it's just different. It's just different, And she was the first kid, and she's got dad wrapped around her finger. I mean, I try not to spoil her, but it's so hard. It's just so hard. So yeah, I'm learning, and hopefully, in the right time, I will get to the place where, let's see.
No, believe me, Yani, you are the word that I'm looking for. There's this quote that, as much as it's cliche, but now it really applies here, is that let's be the change you wish to be in the world, something like that. And you are that, Ali. So thank you. Yeah, I could cry from how happy I am to be listening to all of this, from gratitude, from love, because at the end of the day, it's amazing to see that it can happen. Now it's like we have social proof that, guys, it can be for you, it can be your reality as well, but you have to put in some work.
Yep. No, you do, and the kids, this entire generation, bless them. It's amazing. They learn so fast, and they have access to information I couldn't even dream of, and it's amazing. Every now and then I'll get a comment from my daughter. Aren't you a co-founder of Mental Health AE? How do you not know this? I'm like,
oh,
you want me to smack you now? What are you talking about? I know this. Go away. Don't bug me. Go away. So it's you have to be open to the two ways. It's two ways. It's conversations always two ways. I learn as much from my kids as they learn from me. And that's the same dynamic I had with my mom. I learned from her as much as she learned from me, and I've tried to maintain that and continue that. And every time we'll sit, I'm like, oh, how does this work? I'm like, oh, Baba, this. And I keep up to date with the slang that these guys use. So I one day I came home and they're like, this Baba, this happened. I'm like, no cap. And like, no cap. I'm like, yes, of course, I'm the Baba. I know everything. What are you talking about? Like, you keep up with the language. This is what they use. But this, again, active involvement, I think, is very key. And even with all of this, it's still hard. There's no perfect. So I have to accept that fact that there's no perfect. I remember when Zoha was a baby and she got sick. I don't think in my entire life I have felt worse or more helpless in my entire life than when she got sick when she was a baby. Because all she would do was cry.
Right.
And she couldn't tell me what the problem was. And my mom, I remember this one time distinctly, my mom was at my house. I'm like, Mama, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what to fix. If I can just figure out the problem, I can fix it. And my mom saw me like in this panic situation. And she goes, it's okay. Sometimes the baby will cry, and sometimes you won't be able to figure out why. I'm like, no, this baby is my responsibility. I need to know why so I can fix it. She goes, you cannot fix everything. Throughout this child's life, you cannot fix everything. You cannot be there to fix everything. The best thing you can do is to teach them, is to show them by example.
Yeah.
And then at one point, they got to leave the nest. They got to be their own people. And I'm like, Mama, this is like 4 months old. I don't need this lecture right now. I need to know why this baby is crying right now. My brain wasn't listening to anything at that point because I was just so helpless watching this tiny little child cry. Like, she's been fed, she's been changed, she's been burped. What's left? There's nothing left. I went through my checklist, and when we were expecting Zoha, I went through 13 parenting, everything from what to expect when you're expecting to, man, you name it, the top whatever books. I went through 13. I still have them. 13, like this big each, 13, hundreds of pages each, 13 books, just to make sure I knew everything. And even then, you are not prepared. And I think what my mom, and I blessed her that she was there when my kids were babies. And I think the most important thing she did was to tell me that it's okay for things not to be okay. Because in my brain wouldn't understand it. My brain was, no, I'm responsible for this life. I have to make sure this kid is okay. This kid is in pain. Oh my God, I'm in pain. I remember my dad was in Saudi at the time, this one particular occasion, and he called and I answered phone like, yeah, Baba. And my voice was a little, rattly because I was going through a situation and my dad's like, what's wrong? I'm like, Baba, Zuha has a very high fever. I don't know what's going on. And I don't know. And then he was quiet and I could hear him sniffing on the other side. So he was crying. I was crying. And my mom's just like, you two stupid people, man. What am I going to do with you? She goes, it's okay. The baby will be okay. It's hard. It's hard. And you're not going to know everything. You're not going to be perfect. But the idea, at least in my mind, is you keep trying, you keep striving, and, hopefully everything turns out for the best.
Wow. At this point, I just wish I could hug you. Thank you for that. Wow. Do you think that parents, before having kids, should be getting these kind of tools or education on that? Does it help?
I don't think anything prepares you to be a parent. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I read,
at least to learn how to show up with an open mind, at least to show up, to know how.
No.
By that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you on that. As I was saying, I don't think anything prepares you. I read every single thing I could read on parenting and childbirth and whatever. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, listen, don't you want to read any of these? She goes, you read them. I'm like, you're the one carrying the baby. What do you mean I read? I'm not going to be in the delivery. Like, I'm not delivering the baby. You know this, right? She goes, you read them. I'm like, yeah, okay. I was in the delivery room. This is a whole different experience. And I'm telling you, ladies, now, your man better be in the delivery room. If he ain't, you give him the boot. Straight. I came out of that delivery room when Zoha was born. I'm telling you, like, as if I was connected to God. My first prayer was, thank you, God, the baby's okay. And without even a nanosecond delay, my second prayer was, thank God I'm a guy. I can't do this. I would die as a woman. I can't do this. Oh, thank you, my God. I'm not kidding. I told my mom and she just started laughing. She goes, yeah, you won't survive as a woman. I'm like, no, mama, no. So I think nothing really prepares you. The idea for parenting is to do the best you can and educate yourself as the best you can. But I think before you become a parent, I think you need to spend time with yourself and understand and learn who you are. I think so many people get into relationships without even realizing who they are. Then they create a dynamic with a significant other in a constant flux of confusion. Literally, this is how I see so many relationships around me. You don't know who you are. That person doesn't know who they are. And now your confusion plus confusion is more confusion. Take time to learn who you are. What motivates you? We have this book, the what is it, 4 Languages of Love or whatever. Why do you need a book to figure this out? 5 languages. Why do you need a book to figure this out? How do you not already know this about yourself? Like, hello? I mean, so many of these books I read, I'm like, why do you need books for this? And then I realized
I believe there are much more than 5 languages. Why does it have just to be 5 languages?
No, even within the 5 or 2 or 7, whatever you want to, but why did you need a book?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is you never took time to sit with yourself. You have constantly been living the life that you were told to live
Ali, people
and
are
not
scared
living
to
the
be
life
on
that
their
you
own.
want to live.
They
Yes,
are
they are.
scared to
They're
be
very
on their
scared.
own. Very scared.
Exactly. So this is what I'm getting at. So I think you need to learn who you are. And I think that's the single most important thing that you can do for your life, your children's life, and the generations that follow. And when you find somebody else that you think is going to create that synergy with you, and I keep telling my friends, like, look, what you want out of a partner is like, it's like wrestling. You need the tag team. You tag each other in and out of hard situations. You tag each other in and out of support. It's never 50-50. It's impossible to be 50-50.
100%. I
It's
agree
a
with that.
fluctuating dynamic. But if it's heavy on your side, wrong. If it's heavy on their side, continuously wrong. It needs to move, and you need to have each other's back. But you can't do that until you are individually identified as who you are, what you like in the world, what you don't like in the world, what you see as your path going forward. You cannot have alignment with somebody else if you yourself are misaligned. You need to have your alignment first. Once you have your alignment, then and only then can you align with somebody else. You don't need to have the same goals. You don't need to have the same career aspirations. You need to have respect for each other's, and you need to support each other's. This is very different. Oh, you know what? I wanted to be career, and my wife does not want to be career. I'm like, did you have that discussion before you decided to get married? And who said that you need to or she needs to do the same exact thing? No, you do your thing. She can do her thing. You support her in her thing. She supports you in your thing. Tag team. Why do you guys not see this? And every time I would ask that question to myself, like, why? This is so obvious. Why do people not realize this? I realize that they haven't taken the time to learn who they are. How are you going to expect someone to love you? Let's just use this example of the love languages. How are you going to expect someone to love you when you yourself don't know what your language is? But you magically expect the other person to know. No, nobody's magically going to get in your head. That's impossible. You have to have that communication. And you can't tell somebody something that you don't know. So when you go to the root of all of these layers, to me, from what I've observed in my life with most people, they haven't taken the time to learn who they are. They're living the life of what their parents told them needs to be, or they're living the life of what their parents couldn't live, and the parents are living vicariously through them and saying, oh yeah, I couldn't do this because I didn't have the opportunity. I'm giving you the opportunity. Now you have to become a doctor. For this kid that wants to do art. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So to separate yourself from the parents, to separate yourself from that tribal mentality and the what will people say, and really, really, really discover who you are, and to take time to do that, I think that needs to be the foundation. And then the math builds on top. Then the 2 + 2 becomes 20. And then you create synergy. Then you create, the tag team type of strategy. And then from that, then you become good parents. You can't fill, we see this all the time. You can't fill from an empty cup. So you got to fill your cup first before you can fill, the cup that your children have. And the idea is you don't want your children to live the life you couldn't. You want to provide your children all the opportunities so they can live the life that they want to live.
100%.
And that's a very difficult distinction to make for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, Ali. This is by far my most favorite. Oh my goodness. I could go on for hours. Like, I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Thank you for that. And a big, huge love to your mom. And say hi to her. She's a great mother. She's a great woman. She's done a great job. I hope your kids would also keep the legacy going.
Yep.
Thank you again for being here. And
most welcome.
That's I could go on for hours, but yeah. So thank you.
Great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for hosting me. This has been wonderful.